Good morning and welcome to the Raben Report. I'm your host, Elliot Raben, so get ready to get triggered. Hello and welcome to the Raben Report. I'm your host, Elliot Raben, as you might have heard in our intro. And with me today is part of our expert panel, Marshall and Daniel. How are you guys?
Good.
Doing very fantastic.
Good to hear. So, to begin, as per Spirit Live rules and regulations, all opinions expressed on the show are not those of Ryerson or Ryerson faculty and are only those of the individual commentators. Viewer discretion is advised. Now, we've got a special guest with us today in studio. In lieu of Adam's absence, it's sad because I actually do speak French. Sera Wong. Hi, Sera. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you for coming. Could you tell us a little about yourself?
I'm a third-year student at Ryerson studying journalism. I'm actually only half Korean. My mom was born in Seoul, and my dad was born here, but he's Chinese, so I'm half Korean, half Chinese. I have a younger sister. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's awesome. Well, it's good to have you, and again, thank you for coming. So, let's get... I want to say again, hello to our audiences at U of T and York U. Thank you for tuning in as well. Let's start with our recap of the week. First story is that Adam is running for the RSU. He's on our show, so we just want to give him another shout out. And we really hope that he's going to win and do the RSU proud. Any thoughts on the RSU election, guys? All of you?
Well, it's a pretty interesting time of year for sure. Very intense, very fierce competition, and we've got a lot of drama going on, a lot of interesting events going on, and it's good to see people getting involved. I like to see people because it's almost like there's been apathy about it over the last few years in the time that I've been at Ryerson, and it seems like that apathy is kind of going away, which is great to see. I think political apathy is a shame in all forms, and your student government's important.
Yeah, I'm actually very excited for these RS. Hold up. Hello. Sorry.
That was good.
No, it was just that for technical communication from there. But I got it all sorted out. I'm actually very excited for this RSU elections, just because Adam is running as well. I want to see him be empowered into a better position. And I like seeing all the candidates right here. I think even though whether you disagree with Unity or Elevate, I think there are a lot of candidates here that are extremely qualified. I think I can see a lot of relation towards actual politics into Ryersonian politics. And yeah, I'm just very excited for this results, and I want to see how split the divide is going to be, to be honest. And Sera, right?
Yeah.
So how do you feel about the RSU election so far?
I think that the Rhinoceros Party actually has more of a platform. I've been seeing them more and more, compared to last year.
Mm-hmm. People are kind of taking them a bit more seriously.
Yeah,
Because,
exactly.
they've been a long-time joke, and I think I do like it. As far as I know, it did start out genuinely as a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
They're actually putting in effort, though.
Yeah.
Like, legitimate effort.
I feel like it's really good, though, because you can see how they see Elevate and they don't like them, right? Like, what they do, and they realize that Unity is not perfect either.
Unify.
Unify. It's a great way. It's a great alternative for someone who disagrees with both ways of governance.
Yeah.
So then, you don't necessarily have to explain if you choose one or the other, but
I'm actually not sure. I'm still thinking about the parties and doing research on them. During the debate, though, the Rhinoceros Party did fire some shots at both parties. They called them out for going over budget. I think it was $13K over budget or something.
Wow.
The year before. But the Rhinoceros Party did spend like a considerable amount of their budget on rhinoceros onesies, which is hilarious. But like, are
Yeah.
they going to do something smart with their money if they're elected, or are they just going to spend it on more onesies or something like that?
I feel like that's a very big concern for people with the Rhinoceros Party
Yeah.
because like they don't have a platform like as of until recently. So let's see if they can actually do some damage done. It'd be great to see them.
It's
one
hard
of them
to-
on the executives, but
It's hard to transfer from being a joke on purpose to. I mean, it's not like they were a joke by accident. Like to go from being a joke on purpose to being taken seriously is obviously a difficult transition, and I think it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out.
Very much so. And in regards to the RSU election, if anybody wants to give a shout out to somebody running, please by all means go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Adam, of course, and I full disclosure, I did vote for Adam, and if you're listening, Adam, you're welcome. And
Same here.
we've got Carolina Sorovich. I think I don't want to butcher her name, but I've spoken with her, and she's fantastic for VP Equity, and also Salman is a good friend of mine, and Edmund Sofo. Great guys, and Tamar and Imbar, if you're in FCAD, would be great for your directors there, great representatives, and yeah.
And for FCAT, at least, the unified team is all actual RTA people running. So, I mean, I personally, my shout-outs to Tamar, because she told me to. But I hope she gets elected. You, Sarah?
My vote's still open, so I'm open to bribes and all of that. Like,
Okay, we'll talk
pancakes
after
and
the
waffles
show.
in the morning. In terms of any other shoutouts, I would also like to give some. Well, I personally would like to give to Adam as well. Obviously, I'm also going to give some to Sarah Mohammed and Shiroz Sabir. I hope I said Shiroz's name correctly. I apologize if I did not, but they're both running for arts directors. They're also part of Marshall and I's program. Although they are running for the Elevate team, which I'm not going to discriminate against them and stuff like that. I really do think that if they can use some of the positive things from Elevate's platform, they can realistically make some good stuff here for future students.
Yeah, Shiroz and Sarah, friends of mine, good people. I endorse them as well. And Matthew Mozafari is a.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
If you're in the sciences, right? I think he's in
all of our
yeah.
STEM guys. Please vote for Matthew Mozafari. There you go.
So, moving on to our next recap or story. Canada is at the Olympics, and we're actually doing pretty well. We got a couple medals. Is anybody watching the Olympics?
Yeah.
briefly.
Somewhat, yeah.
Just snowboarding so far. I haven't really tuned into the other sports.
I'm excited
bit of
for-
curling.
Oh, I love curling.
I'm excited for skeleton. I'm excited for what's the one with all the bumps on the hill?
Slalom.
Slalom.
Slalom. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Just watching their knees go like back and forth
And
stuff.
somehow not break.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then I guess our last story, it being Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day to everybody.
Thank you.
No problem. So in Utah, there was a story that a school forced their students to not say no to being asked to dance at their school Valentine's dance because it would hurt people's feelings. So the question comes out, it's like, it's kind of
funny.
like, what's more
Yikes.
important, feelings or consent?
I
right?
think we all know the answer to that
Yeah,
one.
I mean,
right?
that's crazy.
I just
And,
kind of saw that yesterday. I was like, huh.
Wait, what was it? A middle school? You said?
Yeah, like a middle school, and they were having like a dance, and then
Yeah.
a child came home to her mom, and the mom's who the one who like told the news people the story, or the news company the story, and basically said that my daughter was told not to say no if somebody asked her to dance, which is kind of like, okay.
This snowflake
I mean-
complex is just ridiculous. I'm gonna share a story after about like something similar to this, but I want to hear what I think. Marshall, you got something on the tip of your tongue, right?
One thing I've heard of before is schools saying you can't say no if somebody gives you a Valentine's card. And I remember a time when I was in grade 1 and this girl gave me a Valentine's card and I said no and I threw it out. I still feel bad about it to this day. And I get that, right? I think schools saying you can't say no to somebody giving you a Valentine's card, that's fine. But like, that's insane. You can't say no to dancing. Like, I get that it's middle school and they're not doing like particularly intimate dancing or anything, hopefully.
Leave room for Jesus.
Exactly.
But oh man, that's so strange. That's
Yeah.
It's not even about that specifically. It's more about the idea that you can't that you're not going to experience any hardship in life, and that you're not going to experience that at a young age. So what I'm saying is like you won't get that negative feeling of someone saying no to you, right?
Yeah.
An example, like I can't disclose like 100% like what I do with like some working and stuff like that. I do work with something where it's like in like the recreation field where you're working with kids and stuff, and it's happened before multiple times where like a child like doesn't want to participate if they get eliminated in the activity and stuff like that, and instead of me being all nice with them, no, I'm like I'm straight up like zero BS, and I'm like, okay, like whatever their name is, like you need to understand sometimes you're gonna lose and sometimes you're gonna win, okay?
Yeah.
And not every single time that's gonna happen, okay?
It's important.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
it's character development
Yeah.
for the person. So if a girl, like let's say you're ugly and the girl says no for you to dance, right? You just gotta accept that. Be like, what's wrong with me? Like, am I actually ugly? Did I say the wrong thing?
you're gonna tell them
Am
that
I
they're
being
ugly.
rude to them?
Sorry,
Yeah.
kid. You're out of luck. You're just ugly.
Some
You gotta
people
be
are
funny.
pretty, and some people, but you're not one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I would advocate for more delicate delivery than that, but
Yeah.
I think it's important for kids to be
Hot
told
take
no.
is what that is.
And I think kids not ever hearing no is a problem, and I think it leads to
Or
problems going
participation
down the line.
trophies.
Oh yeah.
Participation trophies are
It's like when
exactly
you're
just like that.
like maybe I mean I'm okay with it if you're like very very young, like grade 1, grade 2, but after that just like okay, it's real world time.
Yeah.
You're a 7-year-old. Let's go start paying taxes. So let's move on to our main story, which is the Korean relations. With the 23rd Winter Olympics happening this year, right now in Pyeong Chang, South Korea, inter-Korean relationships are a hot topic. For the first time in Olympic history, from what I read, North and South Korea have entered the Games as a unified state and team. Additionally, North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un's sister actually went to South Korea for the Olympics and to meet with South Korean diplomats, including the president. These are historic moves on both countries, and everyone is wondering if this athletic spirit will translate to political. On today's show with special guest Sera Wong, we talk the current and future state of the Korean relationship. And remember, to our audience, we are live on Facebook, so you can comment and we'll have your thoughts read live on air. So without further ado, let's get to our first question. Before going into the Olympics, what was the state of North and South Korea's relationship? I know that days before the Olympic ceremony, North Korea did another ballistic missile test. So what does that kind of say about their relationship? Sarah, I want to start with you.
Yeah, I mean, before the Olympics, it was terrible. I know that my mom, who is from Korea and she's Korean, she used to joke that North Korea declared war on South Korea like every other week, and that was basically the reality, that no one took them seriously when they did declare war. But yeah, it was terrible. It wasn't good. But I think that with the Olympics, I'm glad that the relationship between the two countries are getting better. But I think that we shouldn't forget about the things that North Korea has done.
like the history behind
Yeah,
it.
just because the Olympics are about, because the Olympics are about team spirit and respecting other countries and being patriotic to your own country. And I'm good that they're playing nice for this sort of event, but I don't think that it changes the reality of things, because if you look at it, U.S. and North Korea are still at each other's throats.
Right.
They're competing in, I guess it's sort of like an arms race, with North Korea trying to get up there in terms of nuclear power, and U.S. threatening Korea that they'll nuke them basically if they set off anything. So I don't know. It's tough to say, but I know that the people in South Korea aren't too happy. Because I don't know if you heard, but North Korea brought like a bunch of cheerleaders, a bunch of...
Yeah, I saw that. They were going into...
like 400 plus people.
Yeah, North Korea's national sport, which I think is
Yeah.
like speed skating in the smallest circle, I believe. They brought in like 80, like something ridiculous number. They filled up a
Yeah.
decent amount of the stadium with their cheerleaders.
And South Korea is actually paying to house those people, those 400 plus
Right.
people, which includes like handlers, to make sure that their athletes don't run away or defect.
Right.
They're cheerleaders, I guess, to show like country spirit, and they're athletes. So South Korea is paying for it, and I forget how much the total was, but it was like in the billions to house them for like foods.
For the whole event.
Yeah, like for the whole event, they're housing all of the North Koreans.
Billions?
Damn,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do some
Wow.
research after that and like, see like that's crazy. A billion.
Billion wons. I'm pretty sure. I don't know about dollars, but
Oh,
wons.
okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
but like the point being that like it's an exorbitant amount of money just to
Yeah.
feed and house those all
They
those
are
people,
staying
right?
at luxury hotels in
Yeah.
Seoul, and
Wow.
which I guess is to help, like, sort of help along the relationship between North Korea and
Right.
South Korea. But the South Korean people aren't exactly happy about
But
it.
don't you think that would also kind of like alienate the North Korean people that are visiting because it would see it would show them like there's
Yeah.
like wait, why am I in such a nice place, like
Yeah,
I'm
for
living in this
sure.
really nice house, and then why would I go back to an oppressive state
Mm-hmm.
like go back to them, and like
Yeah.
I would lose my mind.
Yeah.
I would
So-
the only thing I could think of would be to defect.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really how South Korea has been fighting the war for a long time. And I mean, on that, South Korea and North Korea have technically been at war for 70 years. They have signed a ceasefire, so they're not actively in combat or anything. But they have never signed a peace treaty, and so they never officially ended the Korean War. And how South Korea rather, has been fighting this war, this Cold War, I guess, is by dropping USB sticks with South Korean films, Western films, and music and media to show the North Korean people that, things are not what the Kims are making it seem, that things are a lot better basically everywhere outside of North Korea. And I think that's an interesting point,
Yeah,
that
it's-
they're going to see how it is and that they're going to lose some of the North Korean patriotism.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so now that North Korea has arrived, we've discussed the housing, we've discussed how they're being treated. Has this unified Olympic team changed the politics between the two a bit already? Like, has there been an effect already, or not?
Are you talking about their hockey team or the fact that they
Well,
walked together?
The fact that they walked in together,
Okay.
has that changed anything in regards to the politics between the two?
South Korea is I think more open to delegations. North Korea, I know Kim Jong-un has said that he wants reunification, but
Really?
people are saying that
that doesn't make sense though.
he will want it on his own terms,
Right,
meaning
yeah.
like he wants to take over South Korea, like basically.
Like
Yeah,
There's
so
the catch.
in my research into this, I discovered that the Kims have been a proponent of reunification for a long time, and they want peace, but what they want is the entire thing to be
North
run
Korea.
run by
Yeah.
the Kims.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, obviously, that's not really an equitable solution. Nobody wants that,
Yeah.
except for Kim Jong Un.
back to your question though, like it's wait, you're saying like them walking together, does it actually enhance like and fix the political like solution or what?
Yeah, like does it bring any positive
I don't really
change
think
to
so
it?
because like
Just
if we look back, like let's think of like
the
Sochi.
fact that the nations have allowed their athletes to walk together.
I would
that's
relate
pretty
it back.
big.
I would relate it back to Sochi and then to was it London 2012? I think.
Something like that.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So it was in Sochi, like that didn't like de-escalate because I think around that time was the
They
whole
walked
Crimea
together.
thing, right?
Yeah.
Like that didn't de-escalate the situation that was
Wait,
happening
who
over
walked together?
North and South
Yeah,
Korea,
so they-
it's
Oh.
not the first time
They-
they've
Yeah,
walked
they don't-
together.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
to explain, they've walked together before. They've done the opening ceremony together before. They've never played as a team
Oh,
before,
okay.
except in demonstration sports. They've done it. They've never done it before in official Olympic events.
Well, that's one thing that's very unique about it. But like what I would say is like in the same way, like in the London Olympics, when England, Scotland, and like all the other countries they united together as Great Britain, right? It doesn't change the distaste that Scotland has between like the London like between like England, right? It doesn't necessarily change it. I think it's like more just for PR. But
You're
like,
saying it's like a show, like
it's a show,
mask.
yeah, but
Okay.
it's not going to be enough to fix the problems in the same way. Yeah, so it's not going to be enough to like to get unification
Yeah.
for Korea or something like that. Like there needs to be there needs to be actual diplomatic discussions, and which possibly like someone like the UN would have to what do you call materialize? They would have to
Yeah.
be in charge of that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the walking together, the unified Olympic thing does not change anything. It's more just indicative of how things have been. I think that there's a lot more. Well, I mean, I say this in relative terms. There's less hostility than there was before. There's
Yeah.
obviously still a lot of hostility, but obviously less than in the 50s, for example. And because I do think that the people and I mean, I don't know, but I would imagine that the people don't want a war. Nobody wants to be, actively engaged in combat. That's not desirable, and at the same time, nobody wants North Korea to have their way. And so I would say that it shows that there's a desire for some sort of peace, but at the same time, it's not a desire for friendliness with North Korea per se. It's a desire for North Korea to kind of
bend to their will.
yeah, and not even bend to their will, but kind of just stop being aggressive. Right?
I think that the fact that they are talking more does help a little, because South Korea, I think since February 2016 or somewhere around that time, South Korea does call North Korea twice a day, once at 9 and once at 4. And North Korea has never picked up until recently,
Right.
because of the Olympics, I'm assuming. So at least they've opened like that line of communication, whereas they didn't have it before.
Is that like the phone that when they're referring that is like in the DMZ zone, in the demilitarized zone?
Yeah. They
Okay.
call each other, and that's the way they communicate. But North Korea has never called back until now.
Wow.
Huh.
And just for our viewers, Sarah, do you want to tell people what the demilitarized zone is?
Yeah, basically it's a zone where neither North Koreans or South Koreans. It's like an empty zone. No one exactly owns it, and no one can, I guess, cross it because it's sort of like a border of some sorts. I know that the North Korean guard along the border is very heavy to stop people from delegating. I think like a couple months ago or something, there was someone who ran across the border.
Yeah, it was all
he
over
got shot at.
Facebook.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw the video.
I did see
Yeah.
the video.
Yeah, it was pretty
ridiculous.
brutal, and like tons of men were chasing after him, trying to stop him.
Yeah, he got shot at least a couple times.
Yeah.
And he had to go through like
Yeah.
a small incision.
He was like crawling, and
Yeah.
it was really brutal until I think he made it to the other side though,
He
right?
did, yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did, and
thankfully.
the South Koreans found him, and I think I'm not sure where he is now, but I hope he's being treated and
Yeah.
he's well.
They took him in, put him in a hospital,
Yeah.
and are helping him out. And I believe they're taking him in permanently.
That's good.
That's really
And
great.
we've got
so
a
it's
question.
kind of like no man's land back
Exactly.
in World
Yeah.
War
Basically,
II.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a
a
great
more
comparison.
organized version of No Man's Land, essentially. So we've got Sherwin asking, would South Korea get in trouble if there are North Korean defectors? And what I would say to that is, I mean, like I don't know, because I would imagine that Kim Jong-un would be displeased. And he would probably say those damn fake Koreans.
Oh,
but
yeah. He would take it on the family. I think the
Yeah.
family of the North Koreans. You know, the 3-generation
Yes,
punishment.
yes,
Is that what you're talking
exactly,
about?
yeah.
That's how it works?
And yeah, so would South Korea get in trouble? I mean, I would imagine that Kim Jong-un would be unhappy with them, but there's not much he can do. And so I'm guessing that his family would, or their family, whoever it was, would end up in a labor camp or something similar.
It's pretty scary though. Like,
Yeah,
if,
I mean,
if
they send
someone's an
people.
athlete,
They send people to labor camps for all number of things, just for,
just even like disagreeing with the government or something like that. Like
Pretty
it could be
much, yeah.
anything.
and
really.
even totally arbitrary things, like even if there's no way to prove that you disagree with the government, even if they just think you disagree, like with Kim Jong Un sending his was it his brother-in-law or his cousin or
Oh
something?
yeah,
or
no,
his-
he killed his brother,
Yeah.
or he like, proposedly he killed his brother,
Wow.
because he wasn't in favor with the government. I think.
And it wasn't
Something
that
like
he wanted to take it down; it was that he like disagreed with something.
Mm-hmm.
It was like he had a little disagreement with
Yeah, that's
what
crazy.
the government was doing. And Robert says, "I'm watching on mute, so I don't know what's going on." But he just wanted to pop in to say that he calls for a China-Korea embargo, and I know he's on mute, and so I can't ask him to clarify. I'm not sure if he means China
Trade embargo or
yeah, trade embargo.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
I
if he
think
means
that would be, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what he would
yeah.
mean.
And I mean, yeah, I think that China's, from what we've seen over the summer, getting a little tired of North Korea. And I think the really only, their allyship has really deteriorated, and understandably, how much of an ally are they, really?
And in regards
They're more of a burden to
Exactly,
China. That's
they're a
exactly
burden.
what they are to China.
And in regards to other allies, America, well, the U.S. actually rejected meeting North Korea, and it also didn't stand for their national anthem. Does America's yeah?
Where was that? Like,
It
was that
at-
recently?
in the
yeah, like in the
Olympics
Olympics.
or-
Oh, okay.
So I'm just thinking. I just want to know: will this kind of rejection and kind of way the Americans are treating North Korea affect the North and South's relationship? Like, will North kind of be?
Yeah, I feel like the North.
Will they be pissed at South Korea for being allies with the U.S.? Is that something that would affect the relationship?
Well, I think they always have. I think that was always a big issue, is that, you know, they call the U.S. like a big imperialist machine that just wants to destroy the livelihood of the North Korean citizens. And I don't think that there's any getting angrier. I think that the relations are basically as low as they're ever going to get. And so, yeah, I mean, again, I think Kim Jong-un might say, you know, wow, not cool, guys, but I don't know if it's going to have a serious effect.
Yeah, it's hard to say, especially because I don't think North Korea has been pleased with either South Korea or the U.S. for a while. I don't know if North Korea will see both of them as enemies now rather than like potential allies with South Korea. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I feel like that would be like really. It would be problematic because I feel like the North Korea's government would try to react by try to be experimenting with more of their military with their ICBMs and stuff like that, just to prove a point. Just be like, hey, if you guys are gonna be allies together, there's gonna be serious repercussions. But like, it's a losing battle for them when they're gonna do something like that, because you're going against the biggest country in the world and your allies, which is South Korea. Like, but they have the support of them. So like, if you're in a sinking ship, so like China's already like lost like
and North Korea's really backed into a corner here.
Yeah,
they don't have any leverage in any way.
Trump
really.
already tried issuing a trade embargo with China and Russia, I believe, together, all joint, to stop like North Koreans from getting any particular type of trade. I think it's a shame because it'll sincerely damage the livelihood of North Koreans, like the citizens. But I feel like it won't actually make a difference to like the elites of that country and stuff like that. So the Uns, like, and anyone who's like high up in military, like with the Eel family.
Yeah, and Sherwin followed up with, would that not escalate into a cross-national dispute if it includes the athletes plus the families of the athletes? And what I would say to that is that, you know, you've got South Koreans going missing, ostensibly due to North Korea, fairly often. And, not fairly often necessarily, but it happens. And, you know, North Korea continues to deny it. They'll say, oh, they went on vacation here and they drowned while they were swimming. And, you know, when they deny it like that, and South Korea obviously knows they're lying, but they keep denying it, they won't fess up about it. It's not anything out of the ordinary, and it's a shame. It's really sad, but
it just shows that we got to do something against North Korea.
I mean, yeah. I don't know if I'd advocate for intervention, but I think that some diplomacy is certainly in order. But of course, not giving them their way, because giving them their way is not acceptable.
That's why like back to what who was it?
Sherwin.
Sherwin said the trade embargo thing.
Oh no, Robert
Said that. Yeah, that's why I agree with Robert's like idea like behind that. It's a diplomatic way to resolve these issues, and if we're able to cripple their resources to the point where they can't even sustain themselves and they don't even have the capability of being able to fire any of those military equipment, then that's the perfect time for South Korea to swoop in and to establish a complete control over Korea, which would be I think that's probably the best amicable solution for everyone's ideas would be like for South Korea to take over everything, because there's no way in hell we're going to let that happen to North Korea.
And that's through international intervention?
It would be international intervention, but it wouldn't be going into the country in a war and stuff like that. Because we've already seen the history with that, like thousands of people dying in the Korean War and stuff like that. And in the Middle East. Anywhere where U.S. intervention has come, the loss of life is automatically going to come bear with that. And not just from the military aspect, but from the citizens specifically. Because if you go go inside North Korea, you're going to have all these people that are going to fight for their country instead of choosing the U.S. and South Korea. And it's just not going to end well, to be honest.
But is international intervention really going to be beneficial? Like even by the UN, for example. It's literally even the only. If there's mediation.
For me, I think it's I don't see any other way to do it.
The problem is what to do with all of the people in North Korea. If the regime is like disputed, then I don't know what to do with all the people, because I know people in South Korea are. I don't think they're too keen on taking in a lot of North Koreans. I've read some stories of people who defected and they face I guess some racism because the dialect is a little different, and you can sort of tell that
they have their own they have their own culture,
their own language and their own culture, and you can sort of tell that they're not from South Korea.
Right.
So they have trouble finding jobs, like finding housing, like things like that.
They face discrimination.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
I haven't even thought of that.
it would be
like,
a massive
when that would
refugee
happen.
crisis. Really, it'd be like similar to maybe what we saw when Japan was in control of Korea, of the entire peninsula. And Japan did not, the Japanese people did not like the Koreans being there, because obviously there was a lot of military action on Japan's part in Korea, which caused a lot of Koreans to flee to Japan, who they were now citizens of because Japan took over
Included
Korea,
them,
made it
right.
part of Japan. And, when Korea was liberated from Japan, they all, wanted to go back right away because they gave them the option for repatriation, and they wanted to leave because they didn't like how it was in Japan. They didn't like to be the demonstrations. There's anti-Korean demonstrations, protests, and
Well, you won't necessarily see it because unfortunately there's a lot of stereotypes between South Asian communities, how they look very similar, right? But people who are living in those countries, you can obviously understand the discrimination, and you can see the differences between certain people. An example like that, I've seen also a bunch of lots of race relations being presented specifically in Hong Kong. Because the difference between the Hong Kong people from Hong Kong
yeah,
and
for
people
sure.
from mainland China, they're their own different people. They have their own thing going on and stuff like that. So when you mess with what their identity is and their culture and stuff like that, obviously it's going to cause a lot of problems. So
For sure.
they need to be aware of that in the future if they're going to reunify Korea.
because a lot of
And-
Westerners would just look at them all as Asians, right?
Exactly,
And
exactly.
It's
Which
important
is
to realize.
it's completely inaccurate
Yeah,
to do that.
it's important to realize that's not how they see it. That's not how it is.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that there's different cultures and disputes,
Different
and
language,
incompatibilities.
It's just a different way of life.
I think even now there's protests. They have a joint hockey team, North Korea and South Korea, and a lot of South Koreans aren't happy with it. There've been protests, and I think there was a petition with thousands of signatures trying to get the prime minister to split up the hockey teams because they thought that the North Koreans would hurt their chances of getting a medal, and that the South Koreans wouldn't have
Yeah.
enough ice time or time to play
Right.
for themselves, the hockey, the
Right,
sport.
right.
So even now we're seeing protests, even though they're just athletes. It's not like they're Kim Jong Un himself or his family. They're just athletes, which are I guess regular people who were just born into North Korea. And I don't know, we're already seeing sort of discrimination. So I think that complete reunification would be very messy.
Yeah.
So, in terms of reunification, many are saying that the UN's or Un's sister visiting is just simply propaganda, and they're trying to, create a story where there isn't. Do you believe in this? Is it false? Do you think that Kim Jong Un might be, into potentially negotiating, or is his sister just there out of kind of sheer?
Hard to say. I think he's open to negotiating with South Korea, but on his own terms, if that makes sense. He won't want to give up North Korea to South Korea. It will be the other way around in his
Yeah.
head. And him sending his sister, I think that is a step in terms of more political openness and more talks. But I don't know how far they'll get.
And especially because we don't know anything about the sister. I don't know her name. But what's her stance on this? Is she ultra loyal to North Korea?
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine so, but we can't say for sure. And is she there because she wants to be an ambassador for peace? Is she there because she wants to try and, I don't know, proselytize about how great North Korea is? We don't know. But what we have seen a lot is a lot of romanticization of the sister, because I guess she seems very friendly and she's attractive, and the Western media has been really, oh my God, Kim Jong Un's sister is the star of the show. She's such a darling, and it's I'm not a fan of seeing all that from the media, because I'm sure maybe she's a fine person, I don't know, but it's really kind of ignoring the travesties that go on in North Korea, and it's really kind of making a media star out of somebody who is at least to some degree complicit in this awful regime. And so I think that's an issue with, I guess, I don't know. I don't know where that would come from, but I do know I don't like it.
It's such a tough topic to even talk about, just because it's almost as if like we're kind of like allowing this stuff to happen. Like we're complicit. Not that we're okay with it, but we're complicit with knowing what happens in North Korea, knowing that so many people get hurt, knowing that these people are literally being oppressed in their neighboring country. Like,
But when do we say that, okay, we have to intervene? Because, again, we've seen so many times intervention has just caused more problems. So it really becomes...
yeah,
it's a moral and ethical issue.
I'm just thinking of how like you gave the best words here. It was like messy, like how it was. Because I'm already thinking like, okay, let's say if like if there is some sort of intervention, regardless if it's just strictly diplomatic or in a military standpoint. Like on top of that, like we're gonna have to put in some sort of like human rights tribunal to like try like all of the North Korean government for human rights crimes and war crimes and stuff like that, like for human rights violations and war crimes. Sorry, and it's like this problem isn't probably going to even be solved like near the end of our when we're older and stuff like that. It's going to take years to solve this problem. I think they should use the Olympics as a way to help get the steps for reunification, but you're talking to the wrong guy and try to find a solution for it.
On intervention, I mean, I'm a big non-interventionist, so I would say when do we intervene? Never. If there was a direct threat presented to Canada, an existential threat presented to Canada, yeah, I would say at that point then it's time to do something militarily. I also think that our military has its problems, and I prefer to focus on working that out before we get into any kind of military adventurism. And I mean, preferably never get into any kind of military adventurism, but if we're going to at least take care of the problems with our military, at least not be buying used fighter jets from Australia.
You're saying so using our money appropriately and stuff like
it's
that.
not being used appropriately. Our Navy is just criminally underfunded, and it's terrible to see. The U.S.
Also, like in terms of defending the Arctic Circle, like it's actually the U.S. who does a decent amount of that.
For sure.
Which it should be us, though, right?
I agree. It's a shame, and I don't like to be relying on the U.S. I don't think that's a good deal. Now, the U.S. intervening, if North Korea were to attack Guam, as has come up before, I would say I would support the U.S. just wiping North Korea out. Well, no, not in such harsh terms, but doing something, stepping up, and
some sort of intervention.
Obviously, Guam is part of the U.S. It's a territory, and at that point, it's like you're not only being threatened, but you're actually being attacked. Your citizens are dying, and at that point, then yes, I would say to do something. But until then. And even if they attack Guam and nothing happens, I mean, I know that they don't have the best military technology, despite having the biggest military in the world. That would be ideal if they were to attack, that the bomb was a dud or it landed in the ocean or something. But still, at that point, I would advocate for the U.S. to do something. And you've got a delicate situation with Japan, which of course doesn't have a military under its constitution. That was part of the negotiations of World War II. And although they have soldiers, I mean...
Wait, they don't have a completely organized military?
They are not allowed to have a standing military.
Oh, wow.
So
I don't remember, was that like a time frame they got to have it, or like...
After World War II, they were told
like
to
forever.
dismantle their military forever.
Wow.
And so it's in their constitution. They have defense systems and soldiers trained in case something happens,
right?
But I don't want to see anything happen to Japan, but I also don't necessarily want to see the U.S. and especially not Canada, not that it would happen, just fighting a proxy war for Japan.
Having to defend them.
I think Australia has that covered. Australia and Japan are kind of in their militaries or Australia's military is there to protect Japan, but I don't really want to see adventurism or intervention unless it's absolutely necessary.
I think one major concern that a lot of, countries or people have is that even if you kill off Kim Jong-un, for example, someone else will just step up to take his place. Like, it doesn't even have to be immediate family or just someone who's close to him, one of his generals.
Someone who's in charge of the military.
Exactly, yeah. And someone will just step up. So how far do you go? Like, how many people do you have to wipe out, I guess, to stop, this tyranny that's happening?
It's like you got to go through almost how many people do you have to go through?
And I guess so many people there are brainwashed in a sense.
Yeah.
Because they're not exposed to any other media. They don't know any better.
They've been fed a lie.
Yeah,
for
so they're
forever,
completely loyal to North Korea and its government. So I don't know how far you need to go.
And it's sad because they're not at fault. They're not people who chose to defend this regime. They're people who are, told from birth this regime or this government, this democratic government, is the best thing in the world. We need to defend it, or else our livelihood, our lifestyle, our way of life will be destroyed by the imperialist pigs in the U.S. And that is tough because when Kim Jong Un is gone, somebody else will step in. It's like a Hydra, like that.
The movie.
Or
what is it called?
I'm not sure, but it's an old
Captain America thing, right?
No. It's an old like Greek myth of the Hydra, which is a 7-headed dragon.
Yeah.
That when you cut off one head,
it spawns
three more
two
grow, or two more. And what Hercules had to do with his lover Iago is they had to burn the heads and the stumps after the heads were cut off. And I don't know if that metaphor is if it's applicable, but I think that if something were to be done, you do have to burn the stump of the Hydra's decapitated head there, and it has to be comprehensive. And I'm a very anti-war guy, and I don't want to see war happening, but I think when war does happen, it needs to be thorough, and I think that's what would need to be done.
So, lastly, just to wrap up the show, will there be, I guess we've kind of touched on this, but will there be some sort of actual negotiation that will take place between the two states after the games? And if not, what will happen?
What after the games?
Will there be some sort of negotiation that happens between the two states after the games? Even just one meeting of some sort? Or will things stay the same? Like, what's going to happen after the games?
I expect some communication to happen just because it has to happen now that the communication line is open. They're talking to each other, and Kim Jong-un's sister is in South Korea. I would be really surprised if nothing did happen, because why else would she be there? Besides like a show of, I guess, trust or like a relationship between the two states. So I do think that something will happen. I don't know how much will happen, because as far as I can see, they're at like a catch-22, I guess. Kim Jong-un wants reunification, but he wants it on his own terms, presumably. And obviously South Korea won't let that happen. So where do you go from there?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll have to see how the rest of the Olympics plays out. I think we'll have to see how the people of South Korea respond. I don't think we will see how the people of North Korea respond, as we don't really know how they respond to anything, because they're very kept hidden.
Right.
I mean, what we do see is people running across the border and taking bullets to escape.
They're running for their lives.
And, I think that afterwards, things may stay the same if there's resistance to negotiations from the people and from the governments. But if the Olympics play out well, and especially, I think if Korea does well in the Olympics, medals-wise, I think that could be a huge morale boost to the country.
Yeah.
Stole my line. God damn it.
And at the end of the day, Olympic medals are not particularly consequential, but they do really inspire national pride.
Exactly.
And I don't see Kim stepping down or anything. I would love that. That would be super ideal, but I don't see it happening. Though if negotiations continue and maybe they secede some or concede some deals to South Korea, they say, okay, you know what, we'll stop doing this. And there's one area, it's a mountainous area or an archipelago or something. Maybe Sarah, that's very it's a really hot area in the peninsula right now. They're really fighting over it, and maybe we'll see something happen with that. I think that's the most we can expect for now in the current time.
Yeah, it's very difficult to see that. Ideally, I'd like to see some sort of open line of communication between specifically the head of state of South Korea and with the sister, with Kim Yo-jun, Kim Yo-jun, I believe, Sorry, I'm trying. And on a hot take note that I'm just gonna say, South Korea, if they were trying to be edgy, they kidnap the sister.
Edgy.
like,
Yeah, I
and,
was
like,
gonna
hold her
say.
for ransom.
I was literally gonna say.
She's
what,
already
what-
there,
What
like-
happens if South Korea just decides like she's here? Might as well.
North Korea's ballistic missiles, I'm guessing.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But then he'd kill his own sister.
Yeah,
I
you
think-
think
I
he
think-
killed
I
his
think
own
she's
brother?
expendable. She's
Yeah, he killed his own
expendable for
brother,
him.
his uncle. I think I don't know.
She seems like a nice lady.
But
Why kill her?
if there actually would be meaningful conversation between the two, then in the future, I could see if she's not crazy, she would be able to be in control
Again,
of
with
North
the
Korea.
bluntness.
If she was able to actually be in control of North Korea and actually to have maybe possible trade, maybe possible representation of both parties, of people like in parliament and stuff like that, and being able to actually like be allies with that would be crazy.
And keep in mind, I just thought of this. North Korea has the biggest military in the world. What we just saw in Zimbabwe is the military decided they had enough of, what's his name? It's evading me right now. Of the president of Zimbabwe. You know what? I think that might be the ideal situation. They have how many people
For
in the
them
military?
to
Like
internally
overthrow their government.
Yeah, and I'd imagine the person who came in next probably wouldn't be the greatest, but probably if it were not a Kim, if it were somebody who obviously didn't like the Kims.
Maybe like an overthrowing of the government and
the
establishing some
mortocracy,
sort of
they've got what's called a mortocracy in North Korea, where Kim Il-sung, even though he's long dead, is still technically the leader of the country. He's the leader for eternity. Get rid of that mortocracy, and I think we could see some things change.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, we still got about 5 minutes
Oh,
left.
I thought.
Oh,
Oh, I'm
okay.
sorry. I thought you were telling me to hurry up. I
No, no. If you have anything else to say, Sarah, if you have anything else to add specifically, have you been to South Korea?
I've
before?
been to South Korea. Yeah, it's a really beautiful place. Haven't been to North Korea. Don't think I can ever go. I mean, I've heard people going for or getting
expensive
like
flights, right? Like-
documentaries, special permission to have. I think didn't Donald Trump ban all trips to North Korea? I think I'm pretty sure.
Something.
I haven't heard
Something
that,
like
but I
that
wouldn't be
because
surprised.
people used to take, I guess, like
Educational
tourist trips
yeah.
and just out of curiosity to see how the North Korean government works and is like. But obviously, if you step out of line, you're done for.
Yeah.
You're
The only-
stuck there.
Like with Otto Warmbier, I mean, North Korea did open its tourism department a couple years ago, and so
Was that
it's
the
a
guy
fairly
who's
new thing.
he's been in prison for a while?
Well, he's dead now,
oh,
unfortunately.
but he was in,
yeah, so he was a student from the U.S.
Yeah,
who
he
went
died
for a trip.
recently. Yeah,
And,
but did he come back? Was he able to come back?
They sent him
alive?
back, and he was.
but he was messed up.
He died
Like-
here though.
Yeah, he was unresponsive and didn't know his own name.
People
and
were
stuff.
guessing torture, but with North Korea, nothing is
It's not
ever
like they would
confirmed.
disclose that, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the thing. I would love to go to North Korea. I never will. Never in my life. You couldn't pay me. Though I think it would be really interesting to see if I could, like, fly a drone around it and just, like, have a look. But Otto Warmbier goes and allegedly steals a poster.
Yeah.
We don't know if he did. I would be willing to bet he didn't. And was in prison for how many years? Like, was it like a...
I forget.
It might have just been 1
It
year.
was a good time though. A long time,
And they
not a
send,
good time.
They
Not a
send
good
him
time.
back, and he's unresponsive, doesn't know his own name, can't speak, and dies. And the response from North Korea was, "Oh, he got botulism."
Yeah.
And then we gave him a tranquilizer, and he was allergic to the tranquilizer, and so that's what happened. There's no evidence of botulism, which is something that shows up, and it's a bacteria or something.
Right.
It shows up in your body. And then there was also no evidence of physical trauma either, which is what's
Yeah.
really interesting. Is so his death.
No
is a
one
really
knows
mystery.
what happened to him, basically.
Because you'd think that if they beat him enough for that to happen, there'd be some sort of fracturing or something, but there was nothing.
I think people were guessing some sort of like suffocation technique
Yeah.
where he wasn't able to breathe, but I don't know what North Korea.
Maybe they waterboarded him. Or
Yeah.
something.
I don't
And they
know.
could have,
Yeah.
yeah. Because, I mean, that can certainly kill you. It's...
I'm kind of getting the chills talking about this.
I know,
today,
eh?
so it's kind
it's
of a
really
dark
scary
episode.
to
Yeah.
think about. Just like imagining being in Warmbier's position, just... I think going to North Korea is a mistake for anybody. I don't think it's a wise decision ever. I know that Dennis Rodman loves to go and visit.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
he's the only, I guess,
Yeah.
American that Kim Jong Un likes.
Yeah.
I have no clue why. Do you know?
No idea.
Oh, it's because what's his name? Who was the leader before him?
Kim
Kim Il-sung?
Jong-il.
King Jong Il, he was a massive Chicago Bulls
Oh,
fan.
yeah, yeah.
So
And
that's why he was
so
able
is-
to get
so
Dennis
is
I
Kim
Rodman.
actually
Jong-un.
didn't know
Dennis
that.
Rodman was like the
That's
third best
so
player on the
weird.
team.
One thing
yeah.
that just came out fairly recently about Kim Jong Un, because he was educated in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
he went to school in Europe, is that all his professors said he was never in class. He just played basketball all day.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But yeah, he really loves Dennis Rodman. That's why he's able
Basketball.
to get there 3 times.
So we do have to wrap up, but I just want to say that was our show for this week. Thank you to everyone that tuned in and that messaged us live. Very special thank you to you, Sarah, for being on the show today.
no
We really
problem.
appreciate it, especially very last
Yeah,
minute.
it was my pleasure.
And so a brand new episode of the Raben Report will be coming to you next week. It is reading week, so hopefully everybody will be home relaxing and tuning
Reading.
in. Reading, yes. But we'll be coming to you next week, same day, same time, same people. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.